Hello and welcome back in this very special episode, and this is the number 18th episode of making a boring engine into a tuner dream engine. Yes, my friends, this is the episode number 18, which means that this is the third most boring engine request I ever received in automation game on my YouTube channel, because I asked everyone what is the most boring engines on Earth these days or in the olden days, and a lot of cool people respond with amazing engines and really boring engines. So I've chosen three so far: number three, number two, and of course the most boring one, which is the number one. We will start with this episode with, of course, number three. This is not actually a boring engine. This is a very good engine, but unfortunately, it was produced in a time where everything was going wrong. This is, my friends, the Ford Truck 6, or the Ford 300 cubic inch inline 6 engine. This engine was produced in 1965 all the way to 1996, and it was a very good engine. Really had a good compression ratio, really good amount of power, but unfortunately, when it was produced in 1965, it was really close to the 70s, and as we all know, in the 70s, the emission regulations and of course the oil crisis, all of this made all the engines made by the United States to lose power and torque, and to lose absolutely all of their magic because of the new regulations, and of course the new fuel economy rules and whatever. All right, so let's see. This is the version that I made here, which was made in 1974 all the way to 1975. So it was only like 1 year. I'm not really sure. Is it 73, 74, or 74, 75? I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. I think it was in 1974 to 75. It only was a 1 year production, and in this 1 year, this engine made really hideous amount of power and torque. Let me tell you what happened. This engine started in life with 8.9 to 1 compression ratio, 170 horsepower, and 230 235 like this pound-feet of torque. Very good figure, very good figure. But then the new emission regulations and fuel economy came, and they ruined everything. So let's start with the specs for the worst version of the Ford Truck 6 engine, or as they call it, the 300 cubic inch inline 6 engine. We have inline 6 engine, cast iron block, 101.6 millimeter on the bore, 101 millimeter on the stroke, which equals 4,913 cc engine, or you can say a 4.9 liter inline 6 engine. Push rods, overhead valve, 2 valves per cylinder, cast iron head material, and we have cast internals, zero quality. And yes, they dropped it from 8.9 to 1 to 8.0 to 1, 8.0 to 1. They dropped the compression ratio really hard. And the cam profile that I've chosen here is 20 cam profile with no VVT, of course, +1 quality, naturally aspirated. And let's see, we have a single barrel carburetor. Yes, this engine actually came with a single barrel carburetor with standard intake manifold. As you can see, I made it in 2018 because the story goes with our series here, with all of the episode. Imagine that you bought the F50, or I don't know what pickup truck was at the time, but this engine was used in the F series pickup trucks. So imagine that you bought this pickup truck and you didn't know that you bought the 1970 73, 74 model, which has this engine, this boring engine in it. You thought when you bought the pickup truck, oh, I bought the famous legendary Ford 300 cubic inch inline 6. I'm gonna be doing burnouts, and I'm gonna tune the hell out of the engine, and I'm gonna enjoy every moment of it. And you discovered that your engine is only making 100 horsepower. That's it, 100 horsepower when it was new. Can you imagine this engine right now, after all this time, how much power it lost? It used to be 100 horsepower, that's it, new from the factory. Oh my god, your pickup truck will be extremely slow. I don't know if it can move on its own power. Alright, so let's continue. Imagine you bought it like right now in 2018. You need to use like 95 octane fuel, because the engine isn't really running great, and a single barrel carburetor, this is not really efficient, especially in automation game. I think in real life you can run the engine on really cheapy fuel, but in automation game I had to use 995 octane fuel. I've chosen 13.9 as the air fuel ratio with 11 on the ignition timing, really retarded ignition. 4000 is the RPM limit because the engine peak power only stopped at like 3800 3600 RPM, so 4000 seems very relevant. The plus 10 quality I've chosen here on the fuel system. Short cast headers, single exhaust pipe of course, 1.8 inch is the exhaust diameter, two-way catalytic converter, baffled first muffler and reverse flow second muffler with plus 10 quality on the exhaust system. Now before I reveal the shape of the engine, let me tell you something. This engine came with a very weird configuration, and this configuration was really popular back then, because the cylinder head, the exhaust ports and the intake ports, they were on the same side. Nowadays, like the rest of the engines in every company on earth these days, they use like the exhaust port on a side and the intake ports are on the other side. But here in this engine, in real life, not in the game, in real life, this engine intake manifold and exhaust manifold, they were on the same side of the cylinder head. But unfortunately in automation game I don't have this option to move the intake manifold alongside the exhaust manifold, so that was unfortunate. Alright, so let's see. I've actually seen a lot of pictures, and a lot of car enthusiasts really love this engine. They really love it. Of course, not the 74 75 model, because it was total crap, but I'm talking about the rest of the models, like from 1976 and so on, all the way to 1996. And of course they introduced the fuel injection in 1987, which was really good. But this is the carbureted version, this is the crappy version, and I'm gonna be modifying this version according to what a tuner should have done, or what the company should have done back then. But of course the government regulation prevented all of the magic from happening, so we have to make the magic happen right now in 2018. Alright, so the engine produced 101 horsepower, 223.5 pound-feet of torque at 1300 RPM. Really low end torque. I mean, this engine produced all of its torque nearly at idle. That's perfect for a pickup truck that wants to haul things and put heavy cargo in the rear. Fuel economy, it's not really great. The engine is very heavy. Engineering time was really anyone can make it. Production units are very low, which is good. The engine is reliable. It's very quiet. No throttle response, this is just rubbish. The engine was smooth. It has a good smoothness to it, and it was really good. And let me tell you a story, actually, or let me tell you a fact. I've seen pictures, and I have read this on Wikipedia, that the exhaust manifold, the stock exhaust manifold that came on the engine back then, it was really good. I mean, yes, it's cast log, which is the worst exhaust manifold ever, but it had a very unique design, and that design made the exhaust manifold to be very high flow. So what they did was they retrofitted turbochargers on the same exhaust manifold, the same one that came from the 70s 80s, the same exhaust manifold. They just retrofitted a turbocharger on the end on this exhaust manifold, and it made a very huge difference. Of course you have to change the carburetor and everything, basically everything else, but you know what I mean. That was really good. But unfortunately here we have to change all of this. And actually I have received some cool comments about people telling me just go immediately to turbocharging, don't bother with making it naturally aspirated. I would love that, but unfortunately not all people have money to buy turbochargers, because turbochargers are very expensive. They are not cheap, and you need piping, you need sensors, you need a high qualified tuner to tune the engine for you so it will not explode. It's very costly. That's why I always choose to start with naturally aspirated, because a lot of people love to keep the engine stock and spend a little bit of money on it to make it much better. And turbocharging, I know that turbocharging will solve all the problems just by bolting on a turbocharger and some piping and intercooler and just tune the engine. That's it. But it will be really expensive. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna start with naturally aspirated as always. Alright, so let's fire up this beast and let's hear it stock. Sounds like a diesel engine. Alright, so this engine, as you saw the flow bench, check out how the parts are actually restricting the engine. Check out the exhaust. It's very restrictive. The intake is restrictive, the headers are restrictive, everything basically is restrictive. That's how it was designed, to be heavy duty, to be reliable, and to be torquey. And alright, so imagine that you bought this pickup truck. You will find it very cheap. I am like 1,000,000% sure that you will find it very cheap, because these pickup trucks, they were very cheap, especially in this era when no one loved them, because they were extremely low on power. So imagine that you bought one and you were driving, you put your foot down and nothing happens. The pickup truck is extremely slow. Nothing happens. Everyone is laughing at you. You bought a cheesy pickup truck, and you want to prove to everyone that you bought a good pickup truck with power hidden in the engine. And that's true. There is a lot of power hidden in this engine. Needs to be freed. So let's try and free as much power as we can, naturally aspirated, and then moving on to turbocharging. So the best way and the most healthiest way, of course, to change the entire exhaust system, and yes, and tune the engine better. Alright, so let's start. This is the exhaust system from the factory. Let's say that maybe you went to a junkyard and you found like a late model 1994, 1996, the latest model headers, which will be a short cast one, which is of course much better. This is a cheap upgrade, and check out how much difference in power and torque. Yes, we get extra 3. I know this is not too much because the exhaust pipe is very small, but this will make very huge difference, especially now when we upgrade the exhaust size and of course upgrade the catalytic converter. So let's start with putting a 3-way catalytic converter. Remove this stupid baffled first muffler. Check out the power. 112, 128. But if you want to keep a muffler, you can put a straight through muffler here and a straight through muffler over there. You can keep the 1.8 inch, so the cost will be minimum. Of course, changing the pipe is cheap, but this one is expensive, the catalytic converter. So I would suggest, if I was in your shoes and if I want to change the catalytic converter, I will not choose 3-way. I will choose directly go to high flow 3-way, because I'm gonna pay money and I'm gonna pay really good amount of money. Why not buy the best one? And that's it, job done. Alright, so short cast, change the catalytic converter, change the mufflers, and keep the same exhaust pipe, and check out the difference. It's still restrictive, but look at the difference from 101 horsepower to 129 by replacing just 2 mufflers, a catalytic converter, and a late model header. And this is how it looks. And it will sound better actually. Alright, so we have changed the exhaust system. This is a cheapy exhaust system, except of course the catalytic converter. This is extremely expensive, I think. I don't know how much these days, but I think they're like $400 maybe, these high flow 3-way catalytic converters, but they worth every penny. And of course you need like an O2 sensors in the front of it and the back of it, so you can keep control of the air fuel ratio. You don't need an ECU. No, you'll need like a gauge. You can just power up this gauge and that's it, job done. so you can keep everything monitored, so you don't burn the catalytic converter. Alright, so the next step is of course the carburetor. This is a very crappy carburetor. It came with only a single barrel one, which was very good at the time. It was reliable, it was good, but no, this is not good at all. So let's say you went online, maybe eBay or something, and you found like a, let's say, a 2-barrel carburetor and a late model, let's say, performance intake manifold. Alright, because if I want to change it to twin or triple, yes, it's good, it will be much better, but this will cost money because you need to have a very custom made intake manifold with supporting for twin or triple carburetor, and this is expensive. So the best way to go is, of course, to search for late models, to like junkyards or eBay or whatever, to like for better high performance intake manifold, and changing it to 2-barrel, and check out the difference. 136 horsepower. That's awesome. It's still restrictive, but much better power and much better. Look at the fuel economy. It used to be 12%, now it's 15%, and we are using less octane. That's awesome. Now, of course, after you buy the new carburetor, you have to go to a dyno and tune the engine so you can add more ignition in. Check out the power by adding just a little bit of ignition, and you can actually rev the engine higher. Let's see how much we can go. 5,000 RPM. Alright, 5,000 RPM. It's not necessary because the power peaks at 4,600 now, but it will sound much better. Alright, so let's fire up and let's see how it looks. It looks magnificent. Alright. So far we picked up 57 horsepower. That's awesome. That's awesome by changing only the intake and the exhaust. That's it. No camshaft, nothing else. And of course adding more ignition. And I think when you are going with new carburetor and everything, and you're going with all of these problems, just change the distributor. Just put an MSD billet one, because it will be much better. It will give the engine much better spark, and of course better spark plugs wires and better spark plugs. All of this will make your engine to work really well and to be really good, and to make the fuel to burn much more efficient. Alright, so everything is going perfectly so far. You have more power, like we picked up 57 horsepower. It will be a huge difference when you first drove the pickup truck after you bought it, and now you have extra 57 horsepower. Amazing. Alright, so the next step is of course to put on a very custom exhaust system. You've been like saving money and you want to do something awesome for your pickup truck, so you saved some good amount of money, and now you want to finally purchase like an aftermarket kit, or like a very custom exhaust system. Alright, so let's see what are our options. You can go with aftermarket parts. Of course there will be like a huge variety of aftermarket exhaust kits, because hello, this is a very popular engine and was made in the US, and as we all know, any engine in the US you can find absolutely any aftermarket parts for it, because it's homemade. It's really awesome. That's why I like the United States engines. All the American engines are very awesome because any aftermarket part you need, it's available. Just bring the money and enjoy making more power. That's awesome. I really love that. So let's see the exhaust system. Let's see if we go with aftermarket, how much it will be much better or not. Tubular. So we gained extra 1 horsepower and we lost. Alright, so the engine is knocking actually. I didn't notice that. So let's pull some ignition. Alright, like this. It's better, but now I think it's time to change the whole exhaust diameter, or the whole exhaust pipe. So let's go with 2 inch, 2.2 inch, 2.5 inch. Alright, so 2.5 inch actually is perfect. 2.5 inch, 182 horsepower. That's awesome. Extra 81 horsepower. Wow, I did not change the camshaft or anything yet. That's the exhaust system. So a 2.5 inch exhaust diameter, same mufflers than before. Of course, maybe you need to upgrade the mufflers to a bigger one and change the catalytic converter, of course, to a bigger one. And let's see if we go with custom made long tubular. So we need to go like 2.2 inch. Actually, the engine is losing power. Alright, so the power peak can go forward, and we will pick up like extra torque, but we will lose 1 horsepower. Alright, that's fair, because we need to go to the dyno and of course put more ignition into the engine and see what's what. (184 horsepower). Alright, you can go like extra 200 RPM extra. That's awesome. So we have 184 horsepower with a very custom made exhaust system as you can see. That's looking better than ever. And now let's fire up and see how it will sound. As you can see, the exhaust has now right now a very high flow, a very high airflow, because it's bigger than before. It's much better engineered than before. It's better designed. It's better everything, and it's looking awesome. I love the long tubular headers. They look absolutely mean, and like they are looking like a racing exhaust manifold. They look amazing. All right, so the next step is to upgrading the fuel system again. It will make more power, but no, the most efficient way is to upgrade the camshaft. The camshafts are not really expensive. You can in the US you can purchase a camshaft like that. It's easy. It's very easy to upgrade your camshaft and upgrade your valves and valve springs, and of course the push rods. So let's go with a more aggressive camshaft. Check out the difference. Wow. Alright, so far 39, because going more it will lose much torque. So 207 horsepower. But let me check out something. More RPM. Yes, because with a more aggressive camshaft you can actually raise the RPM of the engine, but do not blow it up. But you need to, because the power peak will increase so much. So let's say because we are buying aftermarket, because we are buying an aftermarket camshaft, you can actually go with a very high quality one. If you love the engine, you can put more money into it and gain more and more power. So far, because I don't want to lose torque. I really don't want to lose torque. So let's say 220 horsepower, 44 on the Campified. That's perfect. And now, since we have extra room, we can actually bump the ignition timing a little bit with the new camshaft and everything. You need to go to the dyno again. That's perfect. 222 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. So far we picked up 121 horsepower. Yes, my friends, 121 horsepower. That's massive increase in power, and the engine will sound much better now. Listen. Oh wow, listen to that. So as you saw, the vacuum gauge, it's only stopping at 10. That's really restrictive. So of course the next step is to upgrade the carburetor. And I've seen people bolting on, instead of 2-barrel or a single barrel, like I don't know if they make it like custom made intake manifold, but they put a 4-barrel carburetor on. So check out the difference. Oh my god, check out the difference. Extreme amount of torque and extreme amount of power. That's amazing. Wow indeed. Alright, so now since we have extra room, and we need of course to go to the dyno, So we can put in more ignition timing actually, like that. And we have 256 horsepower. So now we actually picked up 155 horsepower. And check out the torque, nearly 300 pound-feet of torque. That's amazing. And it looks absolutely magnificent. I love four-barrel carburetors. They are big and they are amazing. But before calling it a day, before calling it off, how about, because I received a cool requested video by a fan, told me that he wants to see the inline 6 or 300 cubic inch inline 6 Ford with Weber carburetors. And Weber carburetors, they are amazing. They are the DCOE, that's the Weber version. So how does it look? Basically, you need to remove this intake manifold, and the carburetors themselves will be bolted on into the engine itself. So let's see how much power and torque and how it will look actually. So DCOE, whoa, look at the power. Ooh, that's awesome. That's awesome indeed. So alright, so we have like, oh no, sorry, I thought, oh no, I was thinking of another engine. No, actually you will not remove the intake manifold. I was thinking about the individual throttle bodies in the what called the direct fuel injection, because the throttle bodies themselves will be bolted onto the engine itself. But no, I forgot the Weber. How do they? So basically you need an intake manifold, of course, and it will be like a very custom made one, because you need to put, as you can see, 2 carburetors on it, not 1, 2. Let's see if triple will make a better difference. It will make some difference actually. It will lose a little bit of torque, but it will be much better. And look at the octane rate. We are using much low octane now, so we can actually put on extreme amount of ignition in, like, let's see, like that. Alright, so 96 is good. So we have 300 pound-feet of torque and 271 horsepower. Now that is magnificent. Let's check out the exhaust. Alright, so we can go with 2.8 inch, or actually we can go actually with 3.2 inch, but 3 inch is better, because it will start to lose torque. Alright, so 3.2 inch. 3.2 inch is very good. Very good. Alright, so let's see, we have, can we put more ignition? No, it will be rubbish. Alright, so let's fire up this beast, and this is how it looks. Triple carburetors. Now the engine can breathe much better from in and out. Oh, listen to that. That is just awesome indeed. I really want to hit 300 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. I really want that. As you can see, they are very similar. 295 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. That's very efficient. I like that. So how about 300 horsepower and let's say 300 pound-feet of torque? I really want them to be, as you can see, we already hit that. We have, like, let's see, right now 307 horsepower, 301 pound-feet of torque. Now that's very good. More ignition, actually it will ruin the engine, so pull some ignition out. 92, that's awesome. And now no, we don't need to go any bigger than this. We can put a high flow, high quality parts. No, it will actually lose power. So 10 is good. All right. So this is the final result as naturally aspirated without opening the engine. Remember, we did not open the engine. The engine is still has the same internals, the same cast internal, the same compression ratio. And now we are producing 309.6 horsepower, 300.5 pound-feet of torque. The engine is louder than before. It's much it has now better throttle response. It's still reliable. It's more efficient, and of course it's more sporty. Listen to that. Alright, so one last push of naturally aspirated engine. Let's say that you want to change the exhaust manifold into a very custom racing intake manifold. Sorry, not intake, exhaust manifold. So yes, we lost a little bit of power. And no, this is not because of the exhaust diameter. This is actually happening a lot these days. The engine is tending to lose power by using racing tubular headers, which is really hideous. Alright, so we need to keep actually the long tubular because it's better. Alright, so there is no last push, of course, unless you want to open the engine and change the compression ratio. You can do that, of course you can do that. Let's see if actually increasing the RPM will not gain any increase in power. And as you can see, the engine can only manage to take 472 pound-feet of torque, the internals. So we are very close. It's actually 301 right now. So if we put a turbocharger on the engine, it will actually start to destroy the internals. So the healthiest way, of course, to go with and to open the engine and change the internals with forged internals. Forged crankshaft, heavy duty forged connecting rods, and forged pistons. This way you will gain a peace of mind, and as you can see, they can take a lot of torque without any problem. And of course, you can actually increase the ignition compression ratio by like 8.5 to 1, or you can go to 9.0 to 1. Yes, you will gain more power, 320 horsepower, 316 pound-feet torque down. That's amazing, because this is naturally aspirated. That's very cool. That's very cool. Let me see your friends right now laughing in your face when you go to the school, or when you go to anywhere with this pickup truck right now with 320 horsepower. So we gain 219 extra horsepower. Yes, my friend, 219 extra horsepower. And the torque, it used to be like 220, now 220, right? I remember that, 220, 230, something like this, and now it's 316. Absolutely a monster now. Now this is a 4.9 liter engine. This is an engine that I would love to have in real life, even if it's carbureted. I mean, of course, Weber carburetors, these are expensive and they are amazing. I love them. So now it's already perfect. It's very perfect right now. And listen to it again. This is just awesome. The sound, the feeling, the vibration, everything is absolutely amazing of this engine. I love this engine so much right now. I used to hate it. Really, I used to hate the version with 100 horsepower, and now it's a dream. Now this is a dream engine. Absolutely amazing. Alright, so now of course the next step is turbocharging. But to go with turbocharging, actually we need to like decrease the ignition timing a lot, and I mean a lot. And let's see, add more fuel in. I know it's not efficient, but we need to do that so we can go with the snail power. And so far not really good, but of course we need to make a very custom turbocharger. This is just rubbish. So let's see, maxed out air ratio as always, and decrease the turbine till we hit the sweet spot, which is now the, let's see, is the compressor size. So this one starts at 2000, so let's say like that. I need to make the engine efficient as well. I don't want to make the engine really not efficient. I hate not efficient engines. And let's bump the size of the intercooler till we hit the sweet spot, which is, we can actually go massive, but no, 350 horsepower. That's good, that's very good. Alright, so this one's better. 62.5mm on the compressor, 38.5 on the turbine. Let's see, yes, the fuel system cannot cope, so we need to decrease it to 10 psi, like that. Yes, we lost a little bit of power, I know that, but this way we don't have any warning lights. So 345 horsepower. Okay, but remember the ignition timing is rubbish. It's very retarded, so as you can see, bumping the ignition timing again will result in a massive gain of power and torque, nearly 400 horsepower. So we have 461 pound-feet of torque. That's massive. And remember, if we kept the stock internals, they will be exploding right now. But now, since we have forged internals, it's okay, they can take the punishment. And of course, we need to check the add a little bit of fuel in. We need to check the exhaust, my friend. Yes, 4-inch exhaust diameter, actually 3.8 inch. It will give you 406 horsepower, 471 pound-feet of torque. Now this is a true red-blooded power. Amazing. We can rev the engine higher, but there is no need. Actually, I'm gonna set it to 6,000. More ignition in. Actually, this one, like, let's say if we add a bit of fuel in. Oh, come on, give me the power. I need the power. So let's go with more aggressive camshaft, like that. 420 horsepower. That's very, sorry, 418 horsepower. I need 420. I need 420 horsepower. Come on, give me 420. Ooh, that's better. Changing the mufflers, the regular straight-through mufflers with bypass mufflers, with bypass valves. Yes, we have 426 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. Now this is a torque monster now. How about more RPM? Alright, so we can give the engine more RPM, so 6,300. Everything is perfect so far. We can put more fuel in if you want, like 13.0. It will not harm the engine really, so it will not harm it really. So with the little bit of ignition timing, we have 432 horsepower, 484 pound-feet of torque. Now that is massively better. So bigger intercooler and high quality intercooler, and of course turbocharger. Pull some, no, add a little bit of more fuel in. And we have 440 horsepower and 483 pound-feet of torque. Now this is a true power, and this is how it looks. Absolutely magnificent. Are you ready to hear the power of this engine, the true power of this engine? Oh my god. I really like the turbo because it will kick in at like 2000, let's say when it will kick in, like 2000 RPM. Yes, 1980 it will kick in here, which is really early, and I like early turbocharged, not early, what do they call them in English? They call them like not laggy or unlaggy engines, or whatever you want to call them. But these turbos are very efficient. I like them because the turbos will kick in early, and I really hate turbos, really big turbos that needs a lot of RPM to kick in. I really hate those engines because they are not efficient, and you need to drive always at high RPM so you can enjoy the power. And if you drove slowly, it will just be like a normal economical car, which is really rubbish. So this is actually efficient. I like efficiency. It's very efficient. It's very high flow, as you can see. The exhaust is very high flow. The intake is extremely high. Has an extreme amount of airflow. That's awesome. Of course, the turbo will restrict a little bit. That's very awesome. Not awesome. That's very normal. And look at the power. Now this is a very good engine. So this is, my friends, this is the 300 cubic inch Ford inline 6 engine made in the 1973, 74, whatever. It's the 101 horsepower version, and we have upgraded it to a 440 horsepower engine. So we gained 339 horsepower. Yes, my friends, 339 horsepower, and the torque used to be 230. Now it's 483. I'm not sure, is it 230 or 220? I think 220. I don't know, but we gained like extra 260 pound-feet of torque. Now that's too much. That's too much power. Now you can go to your friends that mocked your pickup truck, your clumsy pickup truck, and you can tell them that you have the power, like you have as much power as a V8 Hemi with your inline 6 engine. That's absolutely magnificent, and it's still reliable. It's still good. It has very good fuel economy. It's actually more economical than it used to be. It used to be only 12%, and now you can actually add more ignition in. Yes, 444 horsepower. Now that's much better. 444 horsepower, 484 pound-feet of torque. Now that is much better. Still reliable, still efficient, very fuel efficient. I mean, of course, it used to be 12%, now it's 17.7%, so we have like extra 5.7% increase. The emissions are good, they are not bad for a classic engine, and it's still smooth. It has very good throttle response. It's still quiet with a sporty note to it. Of course, it's much heavier, but who cares? Look how much torque we have. You can move absolutely anything right now. It's perfect. It's very perfect right now. So I really hope that you enjoyed the video. This is the 300 cubic inch Ford inline 6 engine, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, get subscribed if you are new to my channel, and watch all my previous videos, because I promise you will enjoy them all. And of course, share the video if you want to share it, and of course hit that notification bell button so you can get a notification each time I release a new video. So thank you so much. Thank you really so much for watching. And please, if you have a boring engine request before I make episode 19, I would love to hear it from you, because maybe your idea of a boring engine, or maybe you will request something much better than what I already have in my mind. So thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you very soon, and goodbye for now, my friends.